having to self-isolate. He's replaced by Michy Batshuayi. Burnley take on Crystal Palace at Turf Moor this evening, with Sean Dyche's men desperate to grab their first 3 points of the season. They've only picked up 2 from 7 games so far, but they can take comfort in the fact that Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United all lost over the weekend. Palace will prove to be very tough opponents, however, a win for them could take them up to 7th place. Burnley make 2 changes from the goalless draw against Brighton before the international break, as Johan Gudmundsson and Jay Rodriguez replace Ashley Barnes and Robbie Brady. 1 change for Palace from their 4-1 win against Leeds, though it is a big blow. Wilfried Zaha is out, he's having to self-isolate. He's replaced by Michy Batshuayi. Burnley take on Crystal Palace at Turf Moor this evening, with Sean Dyche's men desperate to grab their first 3 points of the season. They've only picked up 2 from 7 games so far, but they can take comfort in the fact that Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United all lost over the weekend. Palace will prove to be very tough opponents, however, a win for them could take them up to 7th place. Burnley make 2 changes from the goalless draw against Brighton before the international break, as Johan Gudmundsson and Jay Rodriguez replace Ashley Barnes and Robbie Brady. 1 change for Palace from their 4-1 win against Leeds, though it is a big blow. Wilfried Zaha is out, he's having to self-isolate. He's replaced by Michy Batshuayi. Burnley take on Crystal Palace at Turf Moor this evening, with Sean Dyche's men desperate to grab their first 3 points of the season. They've only picked up 2 from 7 games so far, but they can take comfort in the fact that Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United all lost over the weekend. Palace will prove to be very tough opponents, however, a win for them could take them up to 7th place. Burnley make 2 changes from the goalless draw against Brighton before the international break, as Johan Gudmundsson and Jay Rodriguez replace Ashley Barnes and Robbie Brady. 1 change for Palace from their 4-1 win against Leeds, though it is a big blow. Wilfried Zaha is out, he's having to self-isolate. He's replaced by Michy Batshuayi. Burnley take on Crystal Palace at Turf Moor this evening, with Sean Dyche's men desperate to grab their first 3 points of the season. They've only picked up 2 from 7 games so far, but they can take comfort in the fact that Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United all lost over the weekend. Palace will prove to be very tough opponents, however, a win for them could take them up to 7th place. Burnley make 2 changes from the goalless draw against Brighton before the international break, as Johan Gudmundsson and Jay Rodriguez replace Ashley Barnes and Robbie Brady. 1 change for Palace from their 4-1. Well, we'll just stop that there because we are underway at Turf Moor in this Premier League clash, a massive game, particularly for the home side, Burnley, down the bottom of the table as they take on Crystal Palace. Sean Dyche's men have been a mainstay of the top flight for the last few years, but their squad depth has really been tested this season. It means after 7 games they've still yet to muster a victory. They've only picked up 2 points in that run, and they are set to be involved in a real relegation scrap this season. But scrapping is something that Burnley know how to do under Dyche, so you'd think that that would stand them in good stead in order to keep their status as a top flight side. But it's another tough looking game for them today against a Crystal Palace side who are very much improving under Roy Hodgson. They picked up a very impressive 4-1 victory against Leeds prior to the international break, and that break probably came at the wrong time for them. They are today without Wilfried Zaha, who before the game Hodgson confirmed that he tested positive for the coronavirus, so he's self-isolating in line with government restrictions. They are coming forward early on as Nathaniel Klein has a shot from distance as the space opened up on that far side, but it was simple enough for Nick Pope to make the save, although it does look as though he tipped it over actually as Klein struck the ball. Yeah, he got both hands to it, so it looked as though he was just going to catch it, but he palmed it up in the air instead, and it's going to be an early Palace corner kick. So Burnley have got some defending to do early on in the game. That whole move stemmed from the fact that there was a loose ball which Tarkowski couldn't keep in play. The corner's taken short by Townsend. It comes back out now and it's going to be swung into the mix, but it's a really poor cross from Klein, and Pope can come and gather it. The two sides in full then Burnley have Nick Pope in goal. It's a back four of Matt Loughton, James Tarkowski, Ben Mee and Charlie Taylor. A midfield four of Johan Berg Gudmundsson, Ashley Westwood, Josh Brownhill and Dwight McNeil, with Jay Rodriguez and Chris Wood starting up front. Palace line up with Vicente Gaeta in goal. A back four of Nathaniel Klein, Chet Kiarte, Scott Dan and Patrick Van Aanholt. A midfield four of Andros Townsend, Jairo Riedewald, James MacArthur and Ebery Eze, with Andre Ayew and Michy Batshuayi the only alteration for Burnley from that Leeds game. The only alteration, I should say, for Palace from that Leeds game. Burnley 2 changes from the 0-0 draw against Brighton, which was 17 days ago now. Gudmundsson and Rodriguez replacing Barnes and Brady, who dropped to the bench. It is Burnley in possession now, nearly 3 minutes gone. It's Charlie Taylor over on the far side. He looks to link up with the very talented Dwight McNeil, who's, like most of Burnley's players, has not been anywhere near his best so far this season, but he is someone that Sean Dyche can certainly rely on to pop up with a bit of quality when it matters. He's on the ball again as he tries to nod it forward to Brownhill, and then it's lifted up top. Wood's going to try and battle for it, but Dan gets there and heads it out, and it actually took a bit of a deflection off Wood, so it will go out of play for a Palace throw-in. I'm sure Burnley will have come into this game with some trepidation. Of course, it is a massive game for them, but I'm sure they will be a little bit more at ease by the fact that Wilfried Zaha is missing from the Palace lineup. He's having his best goal-scoring season for Palace so far. He's scored 5, he's assisted 2, goal-scoring season in terms of goals per game. Of course, he's scored more than that in previous seasons, but last year was a disappointing year for Zaha, scoring only 5 all season, so it stands Roy Hodgson's side in very good stead that he's already matched that target so early on in the campaign, and they can climb up to 7th with a victory at Turf Moor. If they can get a very heavy victory, 4-0 victory, they would go up to 5th, although even as much as Burnley are struggling, probably say that that's unlikely at this stage. But the Premier League, since Project Restart, has thrown up all sorts of absurdities that you never quite know what's going to happen, as Palace have a free kick which Gaeta's going to take on the edge of his own box. He stumbles as he does, but he gets plenty of distance on it, up towards Jordan Ayew. But Burnley will come forward with it now, and that's a really good ball down the left hand side, and they break into the box, Burnley, and well, it attempts to be squared by Jay Rodriguez, looking for his strike partner Wood. He was the man that broke the offside trap. He does have a bit of pace about him, Jay Rodriguez. He was, of course, in his Southampton days, a one-time England international, although injuries seem to scupper his chances of ever being a regular for England back then. It was Dan who was keeping him on side. It was a good run forward, and maybe he could have been a little bit more selfish, Jay Rodriguez. He tried to tee up Chris Wood, but Scott Dan was able to get across and make the interception. Rodriguez wasn't at the tightest angle you'll ever see, so there was a big case for the Burnley man striking himself rather than trying to pass it to the New Zealander. And those are the sorts of chances that Burnley are going to have to take full advantage of, because even when they're at their best, historically they're a side that don't tend to score too many goals. They've relied on the rigidity of their defence in order to achieve what they have achieved in the last couple of seasons. The tilt at the Europa League group stages was the high watermark for this small Lancashire club in recent seasons. They didn't make it to the group stage, but for a club of Burnley's stature, it's quite an incredible achievement considering what they were up against in the Premier League. And that's why, for all the poor results this season, you just can't see the Burnley fans really turning on Sean Dyche. He's done such a wonderful job at the club. He's the longest serving Premier League manager by quite some distance now, after Eddie Howe and Bournemouth were relegated last season. Howe leaving that job. It's going to be a Burnley ball now over on that far side inside the Palace half. It was Kiarte who gave away a free kick as Charlie Taylor looked to run down the left channel, looking to try and get his teammate to play a quick ball in, but Burnley are going to do what they usually do and send everyone up into the box. It's swung into the area, it's headed clear, only as far as the edge of the box where McNeil picks it up. He plays it back now to Loughton. Loughton gets it back from Goodmanson, and now here's McNeil again. Palace trying to push Burnley back, and Loughton just hooks it forward. It's played into the box. It's going to fall for Chris Wood, and Burnley have got the opening goal. A much needed strike from them. It was a real mess at the back for Palace. Just a high hopeful ball lofted into the box. It wasn't dealt with. I think it was Kiyate that miscued his header, and the ball fell kindly for Wood. He still had a bit to do as the ball was bouncing in the area, but it was a confident finish from the former Leeds man, and Burnley have the advantage. Great start to the game for Burnley, exactly what they've needed. They've taken the lead after just 8 minutes. It was Johan Berg Goodmanson who put a hopeful ball towards the edge of the box. It's a really poor defensive header by Chet Kiyate as he heads it across his own box. Rodriguez then just flicks it on for the onrushing Chris Wood, and it's a confident finish high into the roof of the net. Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Lovely goal for Burnley, and certainly what they need as Palace look to try and respond as soon as possible. And that's a very dangerous ball swung in from the near left hand side, and Ben Mee had to get the clearance. He played it out for a corner. Very good work indeed. It was Van Aanholt getting forward. So Palace certainly showing that goal isn't going to deflate them too much. Corner was taken short. It comes back to Eze, who'll cross it into the area. It's headed away first man. Not the best ball into the box. Townsend's going to try and whip one in with his unfavoured right foot. Wasn't the worst of deliveries, but it went straight to Nick Pope, who bowls it forward, gets a lot of distance on it. McNeil's going to try and battle with Kiyate, but this time the Palace man does come out on top. So Burnley with the advantage now. Chris Wood with the goal. He's not been in great goal scoring form this season, but it's when you score the goals, not how many, that sometimes is the real difference in matches of this standing. Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Loughton plays a long diagonal ball forward, but it's going to be gathered quite easily by Gaeta. Good start to the season, as mentioned, for Crystal Palace, but a bit like Burnley, I suppose. They're a team that often get castigated for their simplistic style of football, and they do have, like Burnley as well, a pretty small squad to choose from. And it's a team today that doesn't have as much quality with the absence of Wilfred Zaha. It's certainly a side that does have a lot going for it in an attacking point of view. And Hodgson looks on from the dugout. Goodmanson has the ball on the near side. He looks to play it forward, and Rodriguez does very well. Gets past one and gets past another. Gets past three. What a run this is from Rodriguez, but finally he's been caught up. It was Kiyate who got across. Brilliant work from Jay Rodriguez. Real fire in his belly as he took the ball away from Van Aanholt. He then nutmegged Scott Dan, and then Kiyate came across. It was actually Van Aanholt, not Kiyate, who was the man that swept it away for a corner kick. Burnley with a chance to try and double their advantage, taken very short by McNeil, whipped in by Westwood. It's cleared only as far as the edge of the box. McNeil's going to put it back towards the back post, but Gaeta gets up and he claims the ball really strongly. Bowls it forward now. Here is Batshuayi looking to link up with MacArthur. Ball taken off him though by Rodriguez, who's probably been Burnley's best player so far, despite not scoring the goal. It's just Chris Wood's second of the season. Last goal he got was against Leicester back in early September, so it's been a barren patch for Wood, who since joining Burnley has been a comfortable 10-goal a season striker in the top flight. And while That's not an outstanding record. It's good for a side like Burnley, who, as I've mentioned previously, aren't a team that rely too much on their goal-scoring exploits. You wouldn't be surprised to see them play a bit more conservatively now, from now until half-time at least, before both sides have a chance to reset. As Gaeta clears the ball forward now for Palace, looking for Jordan Ayew. Here is Batshuayi. Batshuayi with the outside of his foot plays it to Patrick Van Aanholt, who's rushing forward. He drifts in field now, plays it to Townsend. Eze wants it out wide. Townsend's going to try and turn back on his left foot, and then he does feed it now for Ebery Eze, who's one-on-one with Loughton. Just dragging the ball back, trying to buy half a yard of space to play the ball forward. And he does. He links up with the 1-2 with Van Aanholt, and still he's going Eze, but Loughton does well. Just gets the ball off him, clears it forward. And it'll stay in play as well. Here is Goodmanson. Forward now to Wood, playing with his back to goal. Wood back now to Tarkowski. Goodmanson. It's a bit of a heavy pass back to Nick Pope, and it's one that he had to control, and there was an on-rushing defender running at him, so unfortunately he cleared that out for a throw into Palace. So it won't harm them too much at the minute. 13 minutes gone. Independent off-tube studio commentary. It's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Chris Wood with the goal after 8 minutes, and he's going to latch onto a long ball again. Good chest control from him as Kayate tries to battle. He's on his heels to attempt to win the ball back. Wood rolls it back now to Goodmanson. Now here's Brownhill. Brownhill gets it back from Westwood, and then Brownhill will square it to Ben Mee. Now Taylor over on that far side. An advancing left back Charlie Taylor, very much in the new model of fullbacks. Here is Tarkowski. Now Brownhill. This is decent enough possession play from Burnley. They're not exactly doing a huge amount with it, but they're making Palace do all the chasing. Westwood now lofts it forward. Wood on the edge of the box, rolls it back to Taylor, who whips it in first time, and again it's a poor clearance. Scott Dann had acres of space. He could have taken a touch in the box. He had that much time and space, but instead it just comes off the top of his foot and goes behind for a corner. 2 corners apiece already. Set pieces to get some of the cliches about these sides out of the way. Set pieces probably will be an important part of this contest. Indeed, the goal originated from a set piece which Palace failed to clear. Westwood's corner kick, in swinger towards the back post. Gaeta punches it clear, and now Burnley have to be careful that Palace don't launch a counter. They do well. Taylor, the furthest man back, drifts it across now to the far side for McNeil. McNeil's ball in's a threatening one, and there is Wood. He wanted to try and head that one towards goal. He just mistimed the header, and the decision goes against him. Chris Wood not best pleased with the call from the referee. Just looking at the replay, and he's got every right to be angry at that as well, because it quite clearly came off Kayate's head. I'm not sure what the referee, Kevin Friend, was looking at. The goal kick has been awarded nonetheless. Gaeta clears the ball forward. Ayew jumps and wins the header. Now here is Riedewald. Ball just pinging around the midfield now. Palace can't get a foothold of the possession. Comes out to Goodmanson on this near side. Eze trying to physically battle with him. Goodmanson turns and plays it forward, and Burnley win a free kick. Down in the back of Rodriguez. A little bit rattled, Crystal Palace at the moment. And as it stands, we're still early in the game, but Burnley would escape the drop zone if they were to pick up all 3 points. Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United all succumbing to narrow defeats at the weekend. West Brom going down 1-0 to Manchester United with that controversially retaken penalty by Bruno Fernandes. Sheffield United losing at home to West Ham 1-0. Sebastian Haller with a very nice goal there, and Fulham on the wrong end of a 5-goal thriller against Everton. Another missed penalty to their collection as Burnley put the ball in. It's headed on by Wood, and it's going to be poked towards goal. Can it reach Rodriguez? It can't quite. Burnley knocking on the door again for a second goal. Didn't look to be the most threatening of deliveries really from Westwood, but Wood managed to get there, and it was all a bit messy at the back for Palace. Gaeta eventually claimed the ball, but Roy Hodgson will be having an inquest at half-time if things don't improve, because Palace are all over the place at the moment. That early goal has really shaped this match so far. Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. 17.5 minutes gone. Chris Wood with the only goal after 8 minutes. Palace have a throw-in now as Nathaniel Klein tries to loop it forward. Finds Batshuayi. But again, the whistle goes against Palace. It looked as though Batshuayi had his arms all over Ben Mee, complaining about the decision. The Belgian, who's on loan from Chelsea, with a loan spell in South London. Seems to be 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, looking at the replay, but the decision has gone against him. Ball played forward. Wood tries to head the ball onto Rodriguez. Sean Dyche mentioned before the match that the reason he's put Rodriguez into the side was because he felt as though he'd overused Ashley Barnes recently. He's on the bench, and he's a player that will only ever give 100%, and he'll exert himself right to his last breath. So with the schedule as tight as it is, maybe it's wise for Dyche to give him a rest every now and then as Burnley pick up the ball on this near side. Tarkowski plays it forward, up to Wood. Just bounces off him then. Rodriguez couldn't get to the second ball. Now here is Kouyaté, who turns and plays it back to his keeper Gaeta, looking for another long clearance, something to try and split open this Burnley defence. It's not coming so far. Palace will have a free kick, however, right on the halfway line. Arthur was just brought down there. Scott Dan will take it. Just waits for an option, and all he can do is go sideways. Kouyaté now with Klein, who appears to have gotten over his absolutely wretched run of injuries. He left Liverpool in the summer to extremely little fanfare. In fact, he left on the expiration of his contract on June the 30th, which just went to prove that he really wasn't necessary at Liverpool with the emergence of Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'll come back to that because Eze's played a ball forward into the box. Van Aanholt tries to square it across, looking for Jordan Ayew, but it's a good clearance from Johan Berg Gudmundsson. Really nice pick out from Ebery Eze. Van Aanholt, as he often does, marauding forward in that left back position, tried to tee up his teammate, but no one was there, and it was cleared for a corner kick. Eze delivers it in. It's a really poor delivery. Again, doesn't beat the first man at the near post, and Palace will have to start again. They'll have to go all the way back to Gaeta because Burnley were pressing them, didn't want to take too many risks. A lot of big things expected of Ebery Eze as Townsend now comes forward for Palace, running through the middle. Too many Burnley players around him, however, and they win the ball back. But the Clarets play it down the channel. It's picked up again by Palace, who in the last 2 or 3 minutes are starting to see a bit more of the ball, but not exactly threatening Burnley too much. Certainly got a lot to do to try and get the equalising goal, because Nick Pope hasn't really been worked yet, apart from that long-range shot from Nathaniel Klein. Burnley just getting on the end of all these loose second balls at the moment. They're winning plenty of free kicks and putting Palace under a lot of pressure, and they just won another free kick inside their own half. Midway through the first period, it's still Burnley 1 at Crystal Palace 0, and Sean Dyche will be absolutely delighted with the start his side have made. They just look very hungry and up for the game. They're getting on the end of all those loose second balls. They've won a shed load of free kicks already, and they're trying to cause as many problems in the Palace defence as possible. Those high balls up to Chris Wood are causing Roy Hodgson's defence an awful lot of issues. Palace really haven't created enough so far. They've only had one half opportunity. It came before the goal. Nathaniel Klein with a long-range strike. It was saved by Nick Pope. Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. And Palace come forward down the left-hand side, and it's played across the box. And Batshuayi couldn't get there. It was MacArthur coming forward. What a chance that was for Crystal Palace. Just as I was talking then, great work from Eze on the left. He got free of Matt Loughton. He saw the run of MacArthur. It was a clever disguised ball, and the Scotsman played it across the 6-yard box first time. Batshuayi stuck a leg out, but he couldn't get there. And Roy Hodgson knows how big an opportunity that was. It wasn't the greatest ball in from MacArthur, to be fair. It's one of those that hits the ground and bounces up in the air and bobbles towards the intended target. One of those sorts of passes, so not really much that Michy Batshuayi could do about it, but certainly a big opportunity Crystal Palace to get the equalising goal. Burnley have the ball at the back now. Here is Tarkowski. I've just mentioned briefly before one of the last Palace opportunities about Ebery Eze and his talent. He was a £16 million signing from QPR in the summer, making the step up from the Championship, and with the absence of Wilfried Zaha today, he's probably going to have to fill that sort of role, be Palace's main creator, and he's already shown some good touches already. Plenty of clubs are after him in the summer, so it was a coup for Palace to get his signature. The fact that he didn't really have to leave London was probably a big selling point for Ebery Eze, who's an England under-21 international and a fine footballer, a clever footballer. Here come Burnley now down the left. Taylor rolls it back to McNeil. Now here's Brownhill for Westwood. Cross now to Tarkowski. Burnley just going backwards at the moment, but still keeping hold of the possession. Ball played forward, in between the line for Rodriguez. Goodmanson tries to come inside. We'll come back out to this near side for Loughton. Loughton rolls it back for Tarkowski. Here is Ben Mee. Now Westwood. Taylor. Westwood down the channel, but that's a poor ball forward from him. Gaeta rolls it forward now for Dan. Throws it back to Gaeta, who knocks it forward. Headed on by Tarkowski. And now Burnley will look to try and be menacing again down the left. Strong run this from Charlie Taylor, but he just ran into a bit of a cul-de-sac. Has to go backwards. Does so to McNeil. Now here's Mee. Tarkowski. England international centre-back, of course, although he's not made the cut in the last few squads. Plenty of options of players around Tarkowski's level ahead of him at the moment. The likes of Connor Cody and Michael Keane do seem to be a bit more favoured by Gareth Southgate at the minute. Tyrone Mings is another man to add to that list as well. Tarkowski over to Mee, who is a player that some believe should have been rewarded at some point with an England call-up, but one has never come his way. Really cool composed play by Dan at the back, just pirouetting around Jay Rodriguez then. Van Aanholt back to Dan, just inside his own box. Dan's high ball up to Ayew. Good control from the Ghanaian. But again, it's not very ambitious play from Palace at the moment. A lot of sideways and backwards balls. And it's given away now by MacArthur in midfield. It's won back by Townsend. Burnley wanted a free kick. They're not going to get it. Here's Van Aanholt on this near side. Townsend certainly drifting in from the right flank a lot, as he's liable to do, being strongly left-footed. Burnley now with a chance to come forward. Wood's ball played up top for Rodriguez, but gets too much on it. Here's Townsend. Chance for him to run down the right-hand side. Just stopped by McNeil. Here is Chekiate. Cross now for Dan. All of this taking place inside Palace's half. Now MacArthur. And again, Palace drop back into their own penalty box, and Gaeta will try and get things going quickly. That is a better ball this time, and now here is Ayew coming forward. Ayew will get a chance to strike it, and it's just wide of the far post. Really good opportunity for Crystal Palace to get back on level terms. So it was Batshuayi, not Ayew, who came forward. Ayew made a run across, and that just opened up the space slightly for Batshuayi. And that is really close to sneaking in to that far corner. I don't think Nick Pope would have had it covered had it been on target. One of those that was skimming across the ground, but it appeared as though it had just enough pace on it to perhaps beat the goalkeeper. And Palace, in terms of actual chances, are probably on a level footing with Burnley at the moment, but Burnley, still for my money, have been the better side considerably so far. Here is McNeil. McNeil trying to do it all on the left-hand side, but he didn't have enough support, and two Palace players against him was always going to end in one result, and Palace now with a chance to come forward. Just blocked off slightly, Townsend, by Taylor, and it's going to be a throw-in now. Roy Hodgson, the oldest manager in all four divisions. A real testament to his love of football, if anything, that he's still continuing to take on the pressure of Premier League management and all the media commitments and intrusions that can bring. Palace now have a free kick. Jordan Ayew brought down. He's not happy about something as he's in dialogue with the referee. He feels that maybe should have been booking in that. No bookings have been awarded in the contest so far. In this match between two sides who, looking at the team sheet I've got, it's a match between two sides who are playing 4-4-2, which is not something you see too often in the Premier League these days. Bit of a throwback, but it's nice to see. It certainly makes player identification much easier. As Pope knocks it forward now. Long clearance from him. That's a brilliant touch by Chris Wood on this near side. I'm sure if the Burnley faithful were in Turf Moor, they'd be giving that a warm round of applause. He just plucked it out of the air, and Burnley now play it across from right to left. Taylor looking for a 1-2 with McNeil, but McNeil's going to go inside instead. Now Westwood. Here is Brownhill. McNeil looking to try and work his magic through the middle now. Just can't quite turn into half a yard of space to whip it out wide, but Burnley coming forward now with Tarkowski. Ball played up to Rodriguez, who trying to work the partnership with Wood yet again. We're over at the half an hour mark. 31 minutes have nearly gone. Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Don't forget that on this service, Wolves versus Southampton is coming up with an 8 o'clock kickoff. That's a match between two sides who've shone at the start of this Premier League season. So that game coming up at 8. Our featured game is Burnley against Palace, and as it stands, Burnley jumping out of the bottom three. The way the table's shaping up in these early stages, there is a bit of a gap between the bottom four and the rest, particularly after Brighton got that win against Aston Villa on Saturday. Burnley, Fulham, Sheffield United, West Brom. I suppose any betting people would probably say it's going to be 3 of those 4 that would go down, as the ball is played forward, and Gaeta and Kouyaté very nearly got in each other's way. Gaeta came flying out of his own box, and he got the clearance, but it looked as though they were just going to get in each other's way, and that would have presented a tap-in really for Rodriguez. He'd have been able to run forward and roll it into an empty net. Palace certainly playing with fire there, and Burnley can try and take heed from that as Ben Mee's in possession inside his own half. Across now for Charlie Taylor. Taylor comes inside and then just toe pokes it across for Tarkowski, who's in space. First time ball forward to Loughton. Not the greatest, but Loughton goes inside now for Brownhill. Sweeps it back to Mee. Taylor looking for McNeil. And it's going to be a Burnley throw-in just in front of the dugouts at Turf Moor. Taylor plays it back now to Mee. Whenever the Burnley centre-backs have the ball, they always tend to just hesitate slightly as they look up and see if anyone's making a run. They're never ever shy of using those long balls, particularly when Chris Wood, who's one of the best target men in the Premier League, is up there. His chest control and his first touch, as evidenced a few moments ago, second to none. Burnley coming forward now down the left-hand side. First time ball whipped in from Taylor. Is it going to fall for Wood? It's not quite. Rodriguez tried to get a touch on it as well. It was a threatening delivery into the box. Rodriguez couldn't get there and try and add to the Burnley advantage. Going to be a Palace throw-in now. It was a really teasing first-time ball in. I don't know if Wood and Rodriguez maybe just gave each other the shout to leave it, and that's why the move seemed to break down. Wood was static and Rodriguez was running into the box. Two different strikers who are complementing each other nicely at the moment. Here is Tarkowski. Steps away from Ayew. Plays it back to Nick Pope. The clearance up to Goodmanson. Loughton. Now Westwood will curl it forward. On Aston Villa midfielder, who's the mainstay of this Burnley side. Throwing now for Crystal Palace, midway inside their own half. Just have another look again at that ball in from Taylor, who received the ball from Dwight McNeil. It did look as though they maybe got in each other's way, the two Burnley forwards. Here is Taylor. Back now for McNeil, who's going to shoot from range, and it's wide of the far post. Similar sort of effort to the one Batshuayi had around about 6-7 minutes ago. Got a little bit more pace on the strike, did McNeil, but I think on this occasion Gaeta would probably have got there had it been on target. Nice reverse ball infield by Charlie Taylor. Kouyaté was in the goalkeeper's way, so that might have hampered him slightly, but the way that he managed to dive across, you would think, suggests that he would have had that covered. One ball forward now from Gaeta, and just drifts out of play for a throw-in. Heading towards half-time, it's still Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Both sides have had chances since the Chris Wood goal. Palace have had a couple of opportunities, really good play down the left-hand side. It was Ebery Eze who played a reverse disguised ball to Patrick Van Aanholt and tried to cross it across the 6-yard box. And there was Michy Batshuayi. He was on the stretch, but he couldn't quite divert it into the back of the net. Batshuayi's also had an effort from distance, which went just wide of the far post. And down the other end, Dwight McNeil had a virtually similar effort, just wide of the far post from the long-range strike. It's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley play it forward, but Kouyaté comes across and he's able to take control of the ball. Rolls it back now for Vicente Gaeta. And now here is Kouyaté yet again. Just a real lack of flow in terms of where it's going for Palace at the moment. That's partly down to Burnley's style of play. They're looking to nullify their opponents as much as possible. MacArthur. Now Van Aanholt. Eze. Oh, that's a great half turn. Eze works the ball into space. Now here is Andros Townsend. Comes in on his left foot. Townsend strikes it. Good save from Nick Pope. Well, that's what those wide players for Crystal Palace can do. Eze with a smart half turn. And then Townsend, as soon as you give him half an invitation to get onto his left foot, you know he's going to strike it from range. It's a bit naive, really, from Dwight McNeil. Straight at the keeper, Pope, but he had to palm it over because the shot had that much pace on it. Corner will be taken by Townsend on this near side. It was driven towards the edge of the box, cleared by Burnley. Here is Eze. Eze back into the mix. Now here's Riedewald for Townsend. Townsend towards the back post, and that was a threatening delivery. Burnley just about deal with it, however. It's going to be a Palace throw-in, parallel with the edge of the box. Chris Wood went down. It looks as though he's felt something. Maybe a bit of a clash as he was trying desperately to defend. I think he's going to be okay though. He's back up on his feet and he's back in position. Klein ready to take the throw in. Good Cruyff turn from Townsend. Rolls it back to Eze, but Eze is going to leave that for Kouyaté. Will be another Palace throw in. It's a better end to this first half for Crystal Palace than it was the start. Conceding after just 8 minutes. 39 minutes have gone. Only 1, Crystal Palace 0. Townsend looking for the overlap, and he gets it from Klein, but Taylor is quick to react. Clearance isn't great from him, however, only as far as Townsend once more. Still he's going. Curls it into the box just over everyone's head. It's going to be kept in play, but it's a scuffed cross back into the box, and it's very simple to deal with for Tarkowski. Van Aanholt got there, but he couldn't quite do anything dangerous with it. Just ran out of space on the Turf Moor ground. Here is Kouyaté now. Klein. Oh, great turn from Townsend. Cruyff turning away from Charlie Taylor, and he's won a free kick. Taylor just dragged him to the ground. And with 5 minutes to go of this first half, Palace are sensing an opportunity. Townsend looks at the referee, Kevin Friend, I think with the intention of saying, can you not give him a booking? Kouyaté takes the free kick short. And plays it back to Gaeta. Kouyaté back to Gaeta. Swings his right leg back and clears it forward. Here's Tarkowski. Back to Pope. Needed to be careful there not to get too much power onto the ball. Back to the keeper, who was part of the England squad for their recent international break, playing against the Republic of Ireland. Really poor clearance from Gaeta, straight out for a throw-in. Just having a small argument there with Van Aanholt, who rolled it back to him. Loughton. That comes off Eze, and it's going to be a Burnley corner kick. And try and bookend this first half with a second goal. On paper, it's a game that never looked like it's going to have too many goals, so if Burnley can go 2-0 up, then you'd heavily fancy them to go on and grab all 3 points. The third corner of the game, and they're going to attempt to try and make something of it. Plenty of jostling going on in the box. It's whipped into the area and it's palmed for another corner by Gaeta, who's been put under so much pressure from those aerial balls. McNeil's delivery straight to the keeper, but because there were that many men in front of him, he decided not to take any chances and try and claim the ball. And if anything, Burnley are putting more men on the keeper as McNeil delivers it to the back post, but it's just over Chris Wood's head and it goes behind for another goal kick. But that's an example of just how difficult Burnley can be to play against when they're attacking you with those set-piece opportunities. McNeil is not just a talented player in terms of his dribbling ability and his ability to pick space and pick a pass. He does have a good cross on him as well. Linked with a move to Juventus during the summer, which is certainly a little bit strange. You think he's a talented player, but is he really at that level yet? But nothing came of it. Daniel Klein just trips over on the sideline. Back up on his feet now, he's hobbling away. Just fell on that hard ground. Here's the dugout area. Here's Scott Dan, deep inside his own half. Now Riedewald. Riedewald gives possession away. It's going to be whipped forward by Loughton first time, but he just lacked composure as he did it. Went behind Chris Wood. And nothing became of that opportunity, but Burnley trying to end this first half on a strong note, trying to stop the Palace flow because they've certainly got back into the game in the last 10 minutes. Here is Eze, who's been crucial in that. Showing some really nice flashes of quality. Van Aanholt. Palace looking to try and make their way into the box. It's Eze now on this near side. Eze curls it to the back stick, but he just leans back as he does and gets far too much on it. And it goes out for a Burnley goal kick. We're in the final minute of the 45. Not sure yet how much added time is going to be signalled by the fourth official, but I wouldn't suspect it'd be a huge amount. We've not really had any stoppages thus far. Roy Hodgson looks on, scratches his head in conversation with some of those around him. Well, it's not going to be the most complimentary of team talks at half time, but got to remember we're still very much in this game as Nick Pope tries to waste away as many of those seconds left as possible. Drills it forward. Nodded on by Kiyate. Finds Batshuayi, and now here's Riedewald for Van Aanholt. Eze now on this near side. It's a run at the Burnley defenders. Eze rolls it forward to the edge of the box where Ayew was lurking. It's cleared forward. And that is that for the first half. No added time, so it's Chris Wood's goal after 8 minutes. A ball played into the box by Johan Berg Gudmundsson. Chet Kiyate's header was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez. He flicked it onto his strike partner to score just his second goal of the season. At the break, Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At half-time, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley getting the only goal of the game after just 8 minutes, following a set-piece which wasn't quite cleared properly. It was Johan Berg Gudmundsson who launched a high ball into the box. It was a poor defensive header by Chet Kiyate. Jay Rodriguez got on the end of it. He flicked the ball forward to Chris Wood, who finished really confidently past the keeper, Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides, won plenty of free kicks. Palace have had a couple of opportunities, but it's Burnley 1, Palace 0. Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Were, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wurr, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of opportunities. Andros Townsend's shot, nicely saved by Nick Pope, but it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. At the break, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley scored the only goal of the game after 8 minutes following a set piece which wasn't quite cleared. Johan Berg Gudmundsson played a high ball into the box. Chet Kiarte's defensive header was poor. It was intercepted by Jay Rodriguez, who played it forward for Chris Wood, who scored confidently past Vicente Gaeta. Burnley have been the better of the two sides. They've looked more threatening. Palace have had a couple of Well, we'll just stop that there because we're back underway for the second half of this independent off-tube studio commentary from the Premier League. It's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Burnley are halfway there to their first win of the season, and how much it's needed as well. Chris Wood latching on to a Jay Rodriguez ball in the box and finishing past Vicente Gaeta. That's the only goal of the game so far, and it was a good first half performance from Burnley. Solid, if not spectacular. They limited Palace to only a low number of opportunities. Andros Townsend's long-range strike stinging the palms of Nick Pope was about as close as it came for the Eagles. So Roy Hodgson, I'm sure, will have had a fairly stern team talk with his side at the break, because they just didn't look threatening often enough. They were being bullied by Burnley, particularly in the first part of that first half, where Burnley were winning free kicks. They were getting onto the end of those long second balls, and it was only towards the end of that first half, probably the last 10 minutes, where Palace begun to wake up. So half-time probably came at a good moment for Burnley. No changes to the two lineups at the start of this second half. So Burnley have Nick Pope in goal, a back four of Matt Loughton, James Tarkowski, Ben Mee and Charlie Taylor, Johan Berg Gudmundsson, Ashley Westwood, Josh Brownhill. A break off because a strike comes in at goal as Burnley played the long ball into the box, but Wood was flagged offside. So just go back to that Burnley midfield. They've got Johan Berg Gudmundsson, Ashley Westwood, Josh Brownhill and Dwight McNeil, Jay Rodriguez and Chris Wood up front. Palace lineup with Vicente Gaeta in goal, the back four of Nathaniel Klein, Chet Kiyate, Scott Dann and Patrick Van Aanholt, Andros Townsend, Jairo Riedewald, James MacArthur and Abere Eze in midfield, with Jordan Ayew and Michy Batshuayi up front. Batshuayi was just flagged offside there, so Burnley have a free kick 2 minutes into the second half, and they take it long, looking for Rodriguez, and that's a great touch. Is he brought down by Kiyate? The referee waves it away. I don't know if VAR might want to have a look at that, because there was potential for it not only to be a penalty, but if it was outside the box, it was a last man at professional foul. Rodriguez is looking furiously towards the referee, but I don't think anything is going to become of it. We'll just have to wait and see. There have to be a break in play first, as Kiyate, the potentially guilty man, plays the ball across now for Klein. Klein to Townsend. Townsend back in field. Now here's MacArthur. Forward to Eze. Eze lays it back off for Dan, and now MacArthur will pick it up. Cross now to Van Aanholt, just inside the Burnley half, hugging that far touchline, and that's a very good ball in field, and it's played forward by Ayew, looking for Batshuayi, but he didn't quite get on each other's wavelengths there, as Ayew played it the wrong side of the defender where Batshuayi was running. Just have another look at this potential chance now, and well, it's hard to say really if Kiyate means it. It's a brilliant first touch. You've got to say that about Rodriguez, and as he comes inside, Kiyate then lifts his leg up. I don't know if he was just caught a little bit too late. Is Kiyate going to be spoken to now by the referee? Well, Kevin Friend is talking now with Ashley Westwood. I don't know if he's making the point that it's been checked at Stockley Park. And it was a first half free of those sorts of dramas, as Sean Dyche looks on at what's happening on the field. I don't think anything is going to become of that now for definite, so Burnley potentially robbed of a chance for not a penalty because it was outside the box, but Kiyate was the last man, so maybe they'll feel he should have picked up a red card. Ball played down the channel from Burnley, and Dan had to be careful as it was just bouncing, being allowed to bounce, but Gaeta will tidy up, and he rolls it forward now to Kiyate. Here is Riedewald, who's had a real renaissance at Palace in the last few months. He seemed to be a player who was on his way out of the club, originally signed by Frank de Boer, Netherlands international, but he's reinvented himself at Palace, can play in a whole host of positions, as Eze now pokes it through for Van Aanholt, low ball into the area, and Batshuayi couldn't get there. Tarkowski did. He clears it behind, and it's going to be a corner kick. That's great play from Eze. Van Aanholt just timed his run right. I think it was Taylor on this near side keeping him on, and then just rolled it across, looking for Batshuayi, who was coming across the near post, but so was Tarkowski. Really good, committed defending from him. Corner lifted into the box. It's dealt with easily enough by Burnley. And it's with Klein now, the furthest man back, who has to go back to his goalkeeper. Again, not willing to take any real chances. Ball forward, and Burnley latch onto the end of it. And it drops Palace's way now. Here is Van Aanholt. Now MacArthur. Ayew. Van Aanholt just gets lost in translation there, and now Burnley have the ball back. Taylor's going to run down this left side now. He's up against Andros Townsend. Takes a slight block off the winger, but it'll still fall Burnley's way. They have to come inside now. Here is Westwood. The cross now for Johan Berg Gudmundsson. Westwood forward into Rodriguez, who tries to muscle his way through, but it's going to be a goal kick as Rodriguez looks on, having tangled with Scott Dan. Palace now will get ready to take this goal kick as Burnley angling for their first win of the season. Need to take advantage of this game, because the longer their winless run goes on, the more further away they'll feel they are to winning a Premier League contest. They are helped slightly by the fact that after this game's played, they do have one game in hand. Of course, Burnley started the season a week later than most because the two Manchester clubs were given special dispensation to delay the start of their season, and Burnley were due to play Manchester City. So they do have an extra game in hand, and they'll try their very best to win that and just give themselves a bit of breathing space as well as holding on in this game. Here come Crystal Palace. Long ball forward, but it's dealt with by Nick Pope. Just holds on to it and bowls it out, but he does so because one of his teammates is stricken on the floor. Looks like Josh Brownhill's gone down, and this has been a running theme of Burnley's season so far. We've had so many injury problems, and it's an awkward fall for Brownhill as he jumped to try and win the header. He's back up on his feet now, but it's one of those not very nice looking ones where the player falls heavily on the shoulder and can sometimes be fearful that they maybe dislocate the shoulder. He's going to be okay to continue. Has the ball back now. He's just going to knock it forward. Not the best kick from him. It's just glanced on by Charlie Taylor as it bounced up off the ground. It's a slight slip from Nick Pope, who's looked very solid with everything he's had to deal with. That's not an awful lot, but what he has had to do, he's generally done very well. Taylor now comes forward. Here is Wood on the half-turn, plays it forward, and suddenly there's space for Gudmundsson. Oh, and he's missed the target. It's hit the crossbar and rattled off it. And now the free kick has gone Palace's way, but what an opportunity that was for Burnley to go 2-0 up. So many Palace players just got sucked over to this near side, and the ball was played through for Gudmundsson. Crossbar still shaking now, it seems. McNeil's clever through ball. Gudmundsson ran onto it, struck it first time, but it hits the crossbar. Early stages of the second half, and Burnley should have doubled their advantage. What an opportunity they've just had. It was Charlie Taylor running down at the left-hand side. So many players from Crystal Palace came across to try and stop him. He played the ball into Chris Wood's feet. It was a lovely, smart half-turn from the forward. He played it to Dwight McNeil, who in turn saw Johan Berg Gudmundsson in acres of space on the far side. He then played it to the Icelandic winger, who struck it first time just on the edge of the box. It rattled the crossbar, and Palace have certainly got away with one. It's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Sean Dyche with a look of incredulity there as Gudmundsson missed the opportunity to put Burnley 2-0 up. Pope's clearance flipped on by Tarkowski. Well, if Burnley don't go on and win that game, you can certainly bet you bottom dollar that Goodmanson chance will be seen as a sliding doors moment. Taylor's throwing. Wood looking to try and keep it by the corner flag. He does win a throw-in. Does well, does Chris Wood. Taylor comes forward to take it. Not too far away from the Palace corner flag, so Burnley with a real chance to try and get some momentum. And we've got another one as it came off Nathaniel Klein. And we'll get another one as well. Taylor takes it and straight away it's just cleared out into touch by Jairo Riedewald. 57 minutes on the clock. It's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Back to Taylor. Now here's McNeil. Nice drop of the shoulder. Tries to play the ball in. It comes back to him. A little bit of good fortune about that, but McNeil plays it across now for Matt Loughton. Here is Goodmanson. Goodmanson rolls it back to Tarkowski. Now here's Ben Mee. Mee forward, but it's quite an aimless lump from Ben Mee, and it's easily dealt with by Kouyaté. Palace look to come forward now. Klein overlapping Townsend. Not seen Klein get forward too much in the game so far, certainly not as much as his opposite fullback Van Aanholt. It's given away now by Batshuayi, and Burnley with a chance to try and counter. Collected now by McNeil, who's run through the middle. Now Goodmanson. McNeil. And here is Loughton. Back now with Tarkowski. Tarkowski squares it to Ben Mee. Game approaching the hour mark. Game approaching the time perhaps where changes might be being thought about, particularly from Palace. We've got Christian Benteke on the bench. Jeffrey Schlupp as well, but other than that, it's pretty much a back four they've got on the bench. Joel Ward, Mamadou Sakho, Gary Cahill and Tyrick Mitchell. So not too much from an attacking point of view. Still got Connor Wickham out long term, who seems to have been out forever now. Crystal Palace, Max Meyer not in the fray either. Westwood into Rodriguez, back to Brownhill, and Brownhill gets it back from Taylor. Taylor once more. Game emerging into a similar sort of pattern to how it did in the opening stages of the first half. Burnley just in control, and aside from that chance, not doing anything too spectacular, but they're keeping Palace at arm's length. Still in possession now as Tarkowski rolls it forward to Westwood. Oh, and it's given away terribly. Palace with a great chance, and it's just beaten away by Nick Pope. What an opportunity that was, out of nothing as well. Palace had done nothing to really suggest they were going to get back into the game. It was presented, I think it was McNeil who played it forward, and well, it's a great chance nonetheless, and Palace coming forward again, curled just wide, this time by Van Aanholt coming in from the left. And I think it was Dwight McNeil's ball. And it was Batshuayi that got on the end of it. It was very good goalkeeping from Nick Pope. He read the danger, came out, he made a nuisance of himself, and as Batshuayi tried to get up to get on the end of the loose ball, Pope just got ahead of him and palmed it away. It was no nonsense, it was a bit messy, but it was very accomplished, steady goalkeeping. Now Burnley with another chance. Here is Rodriguez. Rodriguez shoots. Will it fall to Wood? Well, the offside flag goes up, and I think that was inevitable as well. Suddenly the game very stretched. Palace come forward. Here they are running now down the right side. Townsend, chance to get inside. His reverse ball though, looking for James McArthur, doesn't find his teammate. Mee instead will swivel and clear it forward. Kouyaté goes down, but ball is going to go Burnley's way. Less than half an hour now to hold on for Burnley. They'll hold on for dear life, because this would be a priceless win, even in this infant stage of the Premier League season. It's only their 9th game, but already, as I mentioned in the first half, the bottom 4 are starting to get cut adrift slightly. Ball knocked forward into the box. Here is Chris Wood, but Gaeta comes and smothers the ball. Wood trying to add to his goal that he got in the first half, but unable to do so this time. Here's Riedewald. He's got space to maraud into. Riedewald plays it forward. It's a loose pass, however. Burnley clear it. Gaeta will pick it up. He'll just come to the edge of his box and roll it now to Scott Dan, who in turn rolls it for Riedewald. Now Dan. Wide to Van Aanholt. Riedewald and Eze are forward. Picked up by Eze. Eze looking for options out wide. He goes across now for Nathaniel Klein. Townsend, edge of the area, decides against the first time ball. Townsend rolls it back to the edge of the area. Riedewald, who miscontrols it, and it just allows Burnley to win the ball, but that's a great sliding challenge, and now Eze wins the edge of the box, tries to thread it forward through a crowd of bodies to Patrick Van Aanholt. He was so close there. Still Palace come forward, but Burnley finally win it back, and now it's McNeil. Cross to Loughton. He won't thank him for that ball, but Loughton does eventually clear it down the channel. And I think that chance that was presented to Palace on a plate has suddenly woke them up and sprung them into life, because before then just didn't see many signs of them getting back into this game. But we've seen that Burnley can be got at. They do have a fragility about them. Townsend, crossfield ball now. McArthur. Here is Van Aanholt. Now Eze. Townsend. Klein. Will Klein shoot? No, he goes to cross it instead, and maybe Nathaniel Klein. He was at the sort of angle where a shot wasn't out of the question. Still they come forward, Palace, and then the shot is charged down. Van Aanholt, who's now popped up on the right side, surprisingly, was blocked by his opposite number 3, Charlie Taylor. And it's going to go behind for a corner. Townsend picks the ball up. It's going to be an in-swinging left foot delivery. It's a decent looking delivery as well, looking for Kouyaté at the back post. Kouyaté lays it off, struck towards goal by Jairo Riedewald. It takes a block, and now Van Aanholt's going to go from range, but it goes a long way over the bar. But Palace beginning to knock on the door. Riedewald blocked shot from the corner. Another one of their chances. It was Kouyaté that won it at the back post. It was teed up perfectly for Riedewald, but with that many bodies in the way, it was always going to be a lot to ask for him to find the back of the net. And Burnley breathe another sigh of relief. Nick Pope puts the ball down on the spot, ready for the goal kick, and the new goal kick rule is being bypassed by Burnley, unsurprisingly. They'll just launch it forward. Jeffrey Schlupp's about to come on for Crystal Palace, it seems, just to inject a little bit more speed into their attacks. Rodriguez trying to get across. Kouyaté there, not brought down according to the referee. Here is Eze, who might be one of the men who is a candidate to come off if Schlupp is to come on. Townsend. Oh, it's a really poor ball from Andros Townsend. McArthur was getting forward, but Townsend just put way too much pace on it. And the attack breaks down. 66 minutes into the contest. I think we are going to see that change made now. Just waiting for confirmation from the studio pictures. 1, Crystal Palace 0. And it's an attacking change because it's Jairo Riedewald who's coming off and Schlupp on in his place. I would suspect that would bring Eze into the middle and Schlupp would run out wide on the left. Premier League winner with Leicester. Burnley have made a change of their own as well. Gudmundsson comes off and it's going to be Robbie Brady to replace him. So like for like changes for Burnley and Crystal Palace. We still only have just the 1 goal in the game. Midway through the second half, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0, but Palace have suddenly woken up, it seems. They were very nearly presented a great chance on a play. Burnley, in trying to play it out from the back, saw Dwight McNeil play the ball back to his defence, but he only found Michy Batshuayi, who had a chance one-on-one against Nick Pope, but it was great goalkeeping. He anticipated it well and made the save. Jairo Riedewald's had a chance as well as a corner kick swung into the back post. Chet Kouyaté headed it back onto the Dutchman, who struck it from around 12 yards, but there were a crowd of bodies in front of him and it was eventually blocked. Both sides have made one change. Johan Berg Gudmundsson has been replaced by Robbie Brady for Burnley, while Riedewald has been replaced by Jeffrey Schlupp for Palace. It's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Here's Eze. Looking to work it to Ayew, but can't find him. Palace having to retreat. Dan. Now Kouyaté. Here is Klein. Back to Chet Kouyaté. And Gaeta. Not really had many saves to make, Vicente Gaeta. He's probably been the less busy of the two keepers, which is strange because I still say that Burnley have been the better of the two sides. But that gap is definitely closing. Schlupp. Looks as though he is going to play through the middle actually, rather than Eze. Cross to Klein. Klein working out what to do. He plays it now to Townsend. One step over, but then his cross is intercepted and Burnley can clear it long. Up towards Rodriguez. He goes down, but the referee not interested in his appeals. Rodriguez is going to feel quite shortchanged by the referee following the game if Burnley do lose control of the lead. Again, Palace give possession away. Here is Tarkowski. Just trying to get it out of feet, looking to play it down the channel. He's challenged and looks as though it's going to be a free kick for Burnley. Tarkowski and me have been very solid at the back, reminiscent of what we've been more accustomed to seeing in the last few years at Burnley. It's no coincidence that this poor run of form they're having has coincided with them conceding more goals. Second goal would knock the stuffing out of Palace, you feel. Let's have a free kick though. Wood was caught offside. Here is Schlupp. Now Van Aanholt. Ball played forward quickly into Ayew. Well controlled by him. Townsend. To Klein. Now here's Andros Townsend. Klein overlaps. He put the ball in first time. Now he tries to just delay it. Goes back to Townsend, who tries to lift the ball wide, but it's cleared forward, and now Burnley suddenly have a great opportunity, but Gaeta is quick from his goal. Burnley played it forward quickly. Westwood. And then Brady goes down under the challenge of MacArthur. And Burnley have a free kick. MacArthur held his hand up to apologise to his teammates. I'm not sure what Townsend was trying to do there, but Burnley played it forward quickly. Wood wasn't offside because it was in his own half, but he was behind the last Palace defenders. They were very high up the fields then. Chris Wood is many things, but one thing he isn't is quick, and that was highlighted as Gaeta came out and cleared the ball. Westwood and McNeil stood over this free kick now on the far side, midway inside the Palace half, so Westwood drives it towards the edge of the box. It's going to come for Dwight McNeil. Bit of good fortune about that as McNeil ran forward because he wasn't the one that took the free kick. The ball that was headed away by Palace nearly came straight at him. He struck the ball but didn't quite get enough purchase on it. Now Burnley go for another long ball forward. Diagonal up to Wood. Controls it well. Wood plays it across. It's going to be played back into the box. Wood heads it towards goal. But the offside flag. No, it didn't go up actually. I'm convinced that Wood was in an offside position. Maybe that was a big moment for Burnley to get a second goal perhaps. Ball just fell Wood's way it seems. Quite a strange ball that found him. Now Palace with a chance to come forward. Here is Schlupp. MacArthur. Van Aanholt. Inside for Schlupp. Back to Dan. Everyone in a white, red and blue Palace shirt is in the Burnley half now. Here is Schlupp once more. Townsend round the corner first time. Ayew plays it into Batshuayi's feet. Batshuayi was just dragged a bit out wide though. Wanted to maybe hit that first time but wasn't afforded the chance. It's going to be a throw in. Klein picks the ball up. Just waiting for Palace to try and set themselves, see what they want to do from this. Here is Townsend. Tries to come inside. Forward to Klein. Burnley getting all over the Palace players at the moment, not giving them half a yard to breathe, but Palace now with the ball on the edge of the box. Here is Ayew. Now Eze. Eze's still going, he's going laterally. Eze's through ball just beyond Michy Batshuayi. And it'll go out for a goal kick. There's no question he's certainly had a positive impression on this game, Ebery Eze. Just having another look at that Chris Wood chance. Ball was clipped back into the box and Wood did keep himself on side. Well, the linesman on the far side didn't put his flag up. He seemed to just play it forward with his heel almost over his head and then try to head it into the back of the net. Just didn't quite happen for him. Eight attempts at goal, 3 on target for Burnley, 10 for Palace and 4 on target for them. Being relatively even. Now Burnley have a free kick on the near side. Wood just clattered down, so good chance for them to put a useful delivery into the box. McNeil again, the man entrusted with taking it. Curling ball in, it's headed towards goal by Tarkowski and it's very simple for Vicente Gaeta. Here's Ayew. Gets it back now from Van Aanholt. Ayew. And he's claiming that there should be a free kick. Nothing given by the referee. Christian Benteke is about to come on, just to add a bit more power to the forward ranks for Palace. Very much well documented that his goal scoring form has fallen off a cliff in the last few years, but if Palace want to go the direct route, then he's certainly a good player to bring on. A shadow of the player that he was when he first came to England and played for Aston Villa. He earned that £32.5 million move to Liverpool, which didn't work out as expected. He's allowed to join Palace, and in fairness, that's a move that hasn't really come off either. Here's Van Aanholt coming inside, trying to thread the eye of a needle. It'll come back to MacArthur. Now here's Eze, around 30 yards out. He comes inside this time, pirouettes away from Palace players, tries to roll it forward. It will take a nick off a Burnley man, so it's going to be a corner. And this change is going to come beforehand. It's going to be Jordan Ayew to come off, and Benteke is on for him. And when he was at his best, these were situations that he absolutely relished. Ball played in, just over everyone's head. It's going to be a chance now for Palace to play the ball back in. Here is Klein. Now MacArthur. MacArthur's long ball into the box. Townsend didn't quite sit up for him to have the strike. Plays it forward. Is it going to be kept in by Dan? It's not. Well, Dan was signalling to Townsend that he should have floated that one into the box rather than played it to Dan, who didn't quite have the legs to keep it in play. So Benteke now on to partner Batshuayi up front. There's no doubt that Palace have lacked a bit of the punch that they would have had with Wilfried Zaha in the side, who, in case you're just joining, he is unable to play today because he's been diagnosed as coronavirus positive, so he's having to self-isolate in line with government regulations. Pope clears it forward in the goal kick. Benteke, it's his first header one. Now Eze, so good in those tight situations, Ebery Eze, and he's won a free kick. Jay Rodriguez just getting a bit too up close and personal. Palace now with a chance to try and get this equaliser. They've taken the free kick short. Schlupp running forward now. Tried to find Van Aanholt. It's going to be another free kick, and it's going to be a yellow card. Free kick taken very quickly, and a bit too quickly for Kevin Friend's liking. Not quite sure who the yellow card was coming out to. I think it's Robbie Brady. It's Rodriguez that's picked up that booking. "11 minutes to go. Independent off-tube studio commentary. It's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0, but Palace with a free kick in a potentially very threatening position. Eze and Van Aanholt stood over the ball. Burnley's line is, as it is traditionally, very deep, not too far away from the penalty spot. Van Aanholt's outswinger. It's dealt with by Burnley. Mee gets there. Cleared out into touch for a throw-in. Townsend eager to take it quickly. Kouyaté. Again, just lack of confidence almost in order to put the ball into the box first time. Should have done more with that. And now Burnley have a free kick of their own. That referee's whistle is going to be music to their ears when it goes their way. Benteke just grappling too much. Both Mee and Tarkowski have been excellent this evening, as Sean Dyche still looks very pensive on that touchline, pacing up and down. Not going to be kept still. But Burnley is in a better situation for them, where they've got the free kick. Long ball played forward, but Palace will pounce on the second ball. Knocked forward up to Benteke. Now Townsend. Benteke is going to try and get on the end of that loose ball, but it's a great challenge by me. Out for a throw-in. Heading into the closing stages, it's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0, and Palace are beginning to force the issue slightly. They're winning successions of free kicks, but it doesn't look as though it's going to be their day. There's no question that they've missed Wilfried Zaha and that end product that he brings today. Ebery Eze has stepped into his shoes and done a decent job. He's shown some nice flicks and tricks and pirouettes to try and get round the Burnley defence, but they've just looked a little bit devoid of creating opportunities of Palace. Burnley have picked up the game's only booking. Jay Rodriguez brought down Eze, which gave Palace one of their free kicks, but they weren't able to take advantage. It's Burnley 1, Crystal Palace 0. Here they come now with Townsend, who shoots. Blocked by Burnley, edge of the box. And now the free kick goes Burnley's way yet again. Rodriguez goes down. MacArthur, well, looking at the replay, I don't think there was too much wrong with that, to be honest, but the referee decided to award the free kick. Robbie Brady's gone down as well, and this isn't a good sight for Burnley. He's been injured so often in his Burnley career. He's only just come on. He came on about 10 minutes ago. And it looks as though his race might be run already, because Eric Peters is getting ready to come on. He's recently returned from injury, and he is a player that will play anywhere asked of him by Sean Dyche. He's a left back by trade, but he has played left midfield, right back and right midfield, and that right midfield position might be where he's going to slot in if Brady can't continue. Two Burnley physios help him up to his feet. He seems to be walking okay, but I don't think they're wanting to take many risks with him, given that he has been quite delicate with injuries in recent years. So Brady, by the looks of it, is going to come off, and Eric Peters about to come on. A shame for Burnley, but Peters will do a job for the last 6 minutes plus added time. It's just another selection headache for Sean Dyche, though. He didn't need another one of his players going down injured. He doesn't have too many more options to call upon. He does have Ashley Barnes on the bench and Matej Vydra, but then beyond them it's like Palace's bench, just more defenders. Phil Bardsley and Kevin Long, with Bailey Peacock-Farrell, the substitute goalkeeper. Here's MacArthur. Last knockings of the game for Crystal Palace. This is the time where they need to step up and prove that they can do it without Wilfried Zaha in the side. MacArthur, that's a nice flick round the corner, looking for Benteke. He's sliding in on the stretch, and he was brought down by Tarkowski, so another Palace free kick. Been a very stop-start second half with all these free kicks that have been awarded. Can Palace make anything of them? Here is Eze. Well, it was taken short. Not the most effective, but Palace, I suppose all they want to do at the minute is keep possession. Schlupp. Oh, that's nice football, and it's going to drop now to MacArthur, edge of the box, but he scoops it over the bar. Good combinations down that left-hand side between Schlupp and Benteke. It was played inwards to Batshuayi and then came to MacArthur. Just leaning back as he struck that, though. Tarkowski, if he's trying to wind him up or not, just laughing at him with that effort towards goal. Sure, MacArthur won't take to it too kindly as Roy Hodgson looks on. He's got a almost gritted teeth sort of smile as he stands on that touchline. He knows that it's not been a great evening's work for Crystal Palace. Burnley still leading by a goal to nil. Eze coming forward now. Eze's clattered to the ground, and that's surely going to be a booking for Matt Loughton. Taking one for the team if there ever was one from the Burnley fullback. Eze goes down under the challenge. He's been Palace's best player today, Ebery Eze. He scored a wonderful free kick against Leeds in that 4-1 victory, and he certainly looks like he's adapting to the Premier League quickly. It's going to be Van Aanholt to take it. Lifts it towards the far side. It's headed across and it goes just beyond Batshuayi. Van Aanholt tries to play it back into the box, but he gets too much on it. Goes over the top of the net. Hits the roof of the net actually and goes behind for a goal kick. As Burnley seek to close out this contest. Would be a big result for Sean Dyche's side. That can't be overstated. Would lift them up to 17th. They'd still be 4 points behind Brighton, who are in 16th, and then Newcastle and Leeds 15th and 14th respectively on 11, so they've still got a long way to go. But will just give them that psychological comfort of being outside the bottom three. Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United looking in deep trouble this season already. Fulham and West Brom newly promoted from the Championship, and Sheffield United with the dreaded second season syndrome, it seems, having not won in 9 games. Long pass forward from Kiyate. It was flicked on, but Taylor will get there first. Taylor's clearance only finds Townsend. Townsend looking to twist and turn. He crosses it in. It comes off McNeil. It's going to be a Palace throw-in. Townsend's ball into the box. Benteke did really well to pluck that one out of the air, but just didn't have enough players around him to get onto that second ball. That's been the story of Palace's evening. They've been in promising situations but lack that cutting edge. Few shots from distance, almost as good as it's been for them. Maybe that Batshuayi chance where he was given the ball by Dwight McNeil was probably their best chance of the game. Beyond that, not been a great deal to shout about. Another high ball forward. Here is Eze over on the far side. Back for Van Aanholt. Van Aanholt tries to play it down the channel. Another Palace free kick as we enter the final 60 seconds. I would hazard a guess there'll be around about 4 minutes of added time. Although we haven't had a full complement of substitutes just yet. Maybe they will come. It's going to be Townsend on that far side. Outswinging delivery incoming. Townsend's ball in. It's headed towards goal, and what a save that is by Nick Pope. Well, the header skimmed across the ground, and then it looked as though it was Benteke. He tried to just lift it into the back of the net. Kiyate got there, and then Benteke just tried, almost with the studs, to just poke it into the back of the net. And now Pope's gone down. He clearly felt the effects of that clash. Benteke nearly the hero. We've not called him heroic much in recent years, but that was a great chance. They are looking at Nick Pope very closely, those two Burnley physios. It's a good ball in by Andros Townsend. Kiyate won the initial header. It then nearly fell to Christian Benteke. He's just taken a slight knock in the face from the boot of Kiyate as his momentum took him forward. They are having to check Nick Pope with the concussion protocol of paramount importance. And he's lucky that he does have another change up his sleeve if Pope can't continue. Bailey Peacock-Farrell could come on with Robbie Brady and Eric Peters, the two Burnley subs. Just got to take the time now over the diagnosis of Nick Pope, make sure he's going to be okay to play the last few minutes of the game if he can. Camera has just panned to Peacock Farrell, who will feel really disappointed with the way that Northern Ireland failed to qualify for the Euros next summer. He let in a goal on his near post in extra time against Slovakia that he probably should have saved. He's played very few minutes for Burnley since joining at the beginning of last season from Leeds. He might get a few minutes if Pope can't continue, and in future weeks as well. He doesn't look too dazed as he sits on the ground. I think the physios are pointing at various objects inside the Turf Moor Stadium and seeing if he can identify them. 4 minutes of time were added on at the end of the game, by the way, but we've played nearly 2 of them, so probably going to get another 2 minutes. Pope just has a swig of water. I think he's going to be okay to carry on. So play has got back underway finally. And Palace were probably a little bit preoccupied because the throw-in wasn't a good one. They're lucky that they get another. Here is Klein to Townsend, back to Klein. Those two have combined on that side for England in the past. Townsend whips one in. It's headed clear by Burnley, by Tarkowski. Another throw-in. It's going to be Klein to take it. Batshuayi with his back to goal. Batshuayi crosses straight at Pope, who falls over the ball and gathers it almost like a newborn baby. Resigned look on the face of Roy Hodgson. I think he knows that it's not going to be their evening. It is going to belong to Burnley. Pope clears it long. Wood doesn't get there. Dan does. It's over with Eze on the far side, challenged by Peters. Free kick given. Chance for everyone to get forward now. I wonder if they are going to send up Vicente Gaeta. It's always good fun when a goalkeeper goes up for a set piece late on. I think they're going to be disciplined for the moment. Not the best ball in by Van Aanholt. It's going to come back to him. Rolls it forward, but then it's just smashed clear by Peters. Bit of an awkward one for Gaeta to deal with, but he had just about enough time to clear that ball forward, only at the expense of a throw-in. We've gone past the 4 minutes, but I'm assuming we're going to have another couple due to the injury to Nick Pope. And Taylor's going to take his time over this one. Burnley are seconds away from a maiden win in the 2020-2021 Premier League season. Palace will see this as a missed opportunity. Ball played up to Benteke. Lays it off for Batshuayi. Batshuayi goes across now to Eze. Does Eze go down? And it's just going to be a goal kick. He's not going to be punished for diving, but he's not going to win a free kick either. Peters got there, the fresh legs of Eric Peters to stop Ebery Eze in his tracks. It was a double deflection actually. Peters got a foot on the ball, but it bounced back off Eze. And that's why it went behind for a goal kick. In fairness, there weren't too many protests from Eze's side. It's been a long time since that goal went in on the 8th minute. Chris Wood with the goal. Composed finish inside the box. Nice link up between he and his forward partner, Jay Rodriguez. McNeil lifts it forward. It's going to be a throw-in. That'll do as far as Burnley are concerned. Sean Dyche looking on. He's still barking out the instructions. Palace play it forward through Klein. It's going to drop in midfield for Schlupp. Seconds to go. Van Aanholt, that's a really good ball forward. Here is Batshuayi, but he's challenged brilliantly well. so close to potentially... Sorry, it was Benteke. He tried to bring the ball inside Tarkowski. He stuck a leg out. He got the challenge in, and it fell kindly for Nick Pope, who clears it forward now. Volleyed forward by Dan. And the full-time whistle has gone, and what a win this is for Sean Dyche. Their season is off and running. A first win of the season thanks to Chris Wood's goal after just 8 minutes. It's finished at Turf Moor. Burnley 1,